I needed a new first aid kit, so I decided to try the Udurbo first aid kit and the first aid only first aid kit. Now I've been in fire and EMS for about 10 years, and so I wanted to take a look at both, let you know what's good about them, what's bad about them, and let you decide which one might be best for you. So taking a closer look at the Udurbo and the first aid only. So what are some of the first things you notice? Well, the Udurbo is obviously smaller, but it also comes, they claim it's waterproof. Now I haven't tested that, but it comes in kind of a hard shell. So this is good. Now you can still smash it, but this is good if you're going to be storing it with a bunch of other stuff and there's a chance that something might fall on top of it. It seems sturdy enough that it's not going to fall apart. Now the first aid only is a little bit larger. I don't know if they claim if it's waterproof or not, but again, it's sturdy, but if there's something on top of it, whatever's in here will get smashed. So there's a cold pack in each of these. You want to make sure that you don't want to smash these, because if you burst that capsule in the cold pack, it will release. And when the time comes that you end up needing that cold pack, it will already kind of be burned out. So let's take a further look at each. Both have decent zippers. Let's move this one out of the way. We'll look at the Udurbo first. So this is what I was talking about. There's an ice pack in here. This is really good that they included this. You will probably use this all the time, especially if you have kids and they're in sports and activities. People are always falling down, getting bumps and bruises. This is good for that. Has a pair of tweezers. These are pretty junky, I'll be honest. I don't really know how well these would work for anything, so I don't know about these. You got a roll of gauze. This is good for just small cuts and scrapes. Also holding bandages on, very good for that. Tape to hold things on. Now this is something that bothers me about this, is they bill this as a tourniquet. And I guess technically it would be called a tourniquet. But when most people think of a tourniquet, they think of there's a serious arterial bleed and I need to stop the bleed. This will not do that. This is primarily used in EMS to tie around someone's arm to get your veins to pop so they can start an IV. If you have an arterial bleed, this will likely not stop that. So you are definitely going to want to get yourself a real tourniquet if that's what you need. So a whole bunch of other bandages. We got smaller ones. It comes with a very small set of scissors. I wouldn't dare call these trauma shears. They're pretty junky, I'll be honest. They feel pretty flimsy. I don't know how well this would really cut through anything if you needed to cut off a pair of jeans or something like that. I don't know if I would trust these to do the job. If you need more trauma shears or something a little more heavy duty, I'd get your own and stick them in here. Now there's a bunch of safety pins, obviously to hold on bandages, so that's positive. Some more smaller circular bandages if you cut up your knuckles or something like that. Some soap wipes for your hands before you treat a cut. That's always good. A bunch of 2x2s. That's really positive. I'm glad that they put a bunch of 2x2s in here. Especially, like I said, if you have kids, small nicks, scrapes, things like that. These are really good. An emergency blanket. This is also really good. You never know if you're going to be, honestly, depending on where you live, people get stranded in storms all the time in their car, and eventually cars run out of gas. It has happened. Having an emergency blanket is always a good thing to have on hand, especially if you're going to keep this in your car. Now on this side, there are a boatload of bandages. Now this is something I don't like about both of these kits. I'll talk about this for a second. I believe this one, the Udurbo, says there's 273 pieces. The first aid only claims to have 298 pieces. I think that's kind of misleading because you just pack a whole bunch of bandages in there and the majority of those pieces are just Band-Aids. You need more than just Band-Aids in a first aid kit. So I understand the marketing side of it. They're going to try and make it look like there's more pieces than there really are in here. But you got a lot of Band-Aids here, but you will likely use these. You got a burn dressing, pretty small one. May or may not do a whole lot, but it's good to have that there. A triangular bandage. This is good for tying, as you can see here, holding up someone's arm as a sling, using it to hold on bandages. There's a million uses for this, so I'm glad they put one of these in here. So these are some iodine swabs, some alcohol swabs, and some alcohol pads. So all in all, not bad. There's definitely going to be some things you want to add to this. I believe they try and advertise this as a camping or hiking or just keep it in your car first aid kit. If you're going to take this camping or hiking, you're definitely going to want to add some other things to it. Some things like some Neosporin or better trauma shears, maybe even a little pocket knife if you're going to be going hunting or anything like that. And you're definitely going to want to add a real tourniquet to this. That would be important if you're going to be in a situation where you might end up having a serious laceration. So let's take a look at the first aid only. Again, the zipper's fairly sturdy on this, and it seems like it's not bad. Now, one of the first things you'll notice when you open it up, and I really like that they did this, was they included an emergency first aid guide. And it goes over all kinds of stuff like CPR, how to treat cuts, how to treat burns, how to treat stings. If you are in a situation where you are in the middle of an emergency, you're probably not going to pull this out and read this. But I'm glad they included this because a person that's prudent will take this and read through it if they have no first aid training whatsoever. So they kind of know what they're getting themselves into in the event that they do need to use this kit. So I'm glad they added this. Now there's a bunch of stuff in here. Like I said with the other one, there are a ton of Band-Aids. Again, I don't particularly like that they're trying to build this as a almost a 300 piece first aid kit because as you can see, it's a lot of Band-Aids. It's good, you'll need Band-Aids, but again, you need more than just that. So we have more Band-Aids and more Band-Aids. They've got some butterfly closures. That's really good for deep lacerations that are going to need stitches to hold it together in the meantime. These work really well. They give you a trauma pad. This is good for serious bleeds. Now, there's other first aid kits out there that have heavier duty hemorrhage bandages that are better than this, but this will do for something that's kind of like a light to a medium, any sort of laceration or bleeding like that. I'm glad that they put one of these in here. What else do they have in here? They have a 4x4. They only have one of these. These are actually really useful. We'll talk about that. There's some more 2x2s and 3x3s over here. These you will use constantly. They can double as bandages with just this and tape. I like these a lot. I wish they would have put more 4x4s in here and maybe eased up a little bit on the Band-Aids. Larger Band-Aids. Got Band-Aids for days. Tape. Always good to have some tape on hand to hold those 2x2s and those 4x4s in place. Some Q-tip applicators. This is good for putting on Neosporin or anything like that. And speaking of Neosporin, it comes with packs of neomycin, which is essentially the same sort of thing. You're going to use this a lot, especially if you have kids or if you're out and about. You're always going to have little cuts and nicks and scrapes. I'm glad that they included this and that you're going to be able to use this. More bandages in case there weren't enough. Knuckle bandages. And then this is a thermometer. Now, I've never used a thermometer like this, but my guess is it's probably would be in your best interest to just go buy a separate thermometer and add it in here if you wanted to keep a thermometer in your first aid kit. Now over here, there's going to be more sorts of pads. This is an iPad, some 2x2s and some 3x3s. Again, these are always good to have on hand. Bzk Antiseptic Towelettes. These are to wipe your hands off or wipe off a larger area to kind of disinfect it before you touch anybody. We have some, these are like pieces of tape to secure bandages, I guess, would be their best use. Here's some tweezers. Again, not very good tweezers. You might want to invest in some on your own. And then over here is just a bunch of over-the-counter sort of medication. So they have non-aspirin, which is the equivalent of acetaminophen. They have aspirin. They have some burn gel. They have some ibuprofen. What else do they have? That's pretty much it as far as their medications go. But again, they can't really put a whole lot of, prescription medications in here. So it's good to have those things on hand, and it's good that you keep those in your first aid kit. Now they give you a set of scissors. Again, these are even worse than the other ones. These really would not be able to cut through very much. These are good for cutting bandages, and that's pretty much it. So if you want a heavier duty set, you're going to have to go buy your own set. This is really good that they didn't add in the other one is a set of nitrile gloves. If you are ever in a situation where you have to touch somebody else, you do not want to get their bodily fluids all over you. So having a set of nitrile gloves on hand is good. The other first aid kit did not come with a set of these, so I'm glad they included these. Alcohol pads, gauze pads, again, good to hold on bandages, or just use them as a bandage in and of themselves. More towelettes. Let's see what's back here. A cold pack, again, especially with a case like this where it could easily be smashed. This cold pack, if this gets activated when the day comes that you need it, it's not going to work. But it is good that they had this in here. Emergency blanket, same sort of thing. Good to always have one of these on hand. And what else do we have here? A couple more alcohol wipes and a couple tongue depressors. This would be good for something like a finger splint. If somebody breaks a finger or dislocates his finger, tape it on there like that, wrap it up with tape. This would actually come in decent handy, again, if you have kids and they're out playing and doing things like that. So all in all, between the two, which would be a better fit for you? Honestly, it's up to you and what you would really use it for. But if you are looking for just a general in the car, covers a lot of ground, maybe you have kids and you're going to be out and about, I would probably go with the first aid only over this one, simply because this has a little bit more to it. Now, one of the things I really don't like about this first aid only is this first aid only comes with a little inventory list here. And you'll see here on the bottom, let me see if I can get it close enough. It comes with an expiration date, primarily for those medications. At the time of making this video, it's March of 2023. And the expiration date is May of 2023. Why you would sell a first aid kit that's going to expire in 2 months is beyond me. That really kind of turns a lot of people off, the fact that you're going to buy it and it's going to be expired in 2 months. Now, granted, you can always go out and get your own ibuprofen and aspirin and acetaminophen and things like that, but people are buying this so that they don't have to do that. So I really don't like that about this first aid essentials one. I just think that was misleading. Now this one is going to be better if you are going to be storing it with a bunch of stuff, maybe in a backpack or something like that, because it kind of has this hard shell. But again, you're going to want to add some things to this to make it a little more robust. I would not take either of these camping or hiking without adding some other things to it. But generally, depending on what your purpose is for, these are decent first aid kits.